everybody. Welcome back to Crafting and Crime Daily. I'm Rebecca, your host, and I recap live trials so you have something to listen to while you are crafting. Now, this is part one of a new trial. Now, yesterday I started another new trial. The trial that I started yesterday, there was no court on Monday. What I recapped yesterday for you was the opening statements that took place on Friday. They never got any actual testimony in before the end of the day on Friday. So they will start fresh today with the testimony in that case. But today, we're going to a case that's out of Michigan. Now, Florida used to be my favorite state, but Michigan, it's getting up there. We've got a lot of cases coming out of Michigan. So this is a case against a woman named Beverly McCullum. It is 23 years old, 22 years old. This murder of Robert Carvalho happened in 2002. Yes. And you're going to say, well, why is she on trial now? Well, I'm going to get to that. But she is accused of she's charged with second-degree murder and aggravated, whatever that statute is. You can't mess with a corpse. That good old statute that gets thrown in there. So, abuse of a corpse. Because his body was lit on fire after the murder. So in any case, how did we get here? Yes, good question. So at the time, 2002, Robert Carvalho, his real name is Juan Centrone. He is from the Dominican Republic, and he has been in the U.S. prisons several times for drug-related offenses, but is now living in his home under the name of Robert Carvalho. He's living with Beverly McCullum. They have two children, Tasha and Cicely. He's got his daughter, Deneen from a prior marriage. They're all happily living together. They've converted the living room into Robert and Beverly's bedroom. The girls at this point in time, Tasha and Cicely, are 10 and 12 years old, and Deneen is living in the sunroom. That's been converted into a bedroom as well. Then there is a basement that Robert would go down into the basement and use as his man cave, so to speak. He'd go down there to read his Bible and smoke his weed. Good combo, really? Okay. Whatever floats your boat. Anyway, here's how we got here. Robert's body was discovered in a trunk in a blueberry field back the day after the murders, May 8th of 2002. But they were never able to identify him. They felt like his teeth were unique enough that some dentist would come forward and say, hey, this was my patient. That did not happen. And there was a gentleman that came to the police, approached the police and said, I'd like to make a documentary about this unidentified body. And he named it Jack in the Box. So some people are referring to this trial as the Jack in the Box trial. His name wasn't Jack. He wasn't in a box. His name was Juan, and he was in a trunk on this blueberry field property. In any case, they do eventually identify him by his dental records. And it's at that point that they find out about this Robert Carvalho, that he lived with Beverly McCullum and the children, and he was also living in that home with a guy named Chris McMillan, who was supposedly the boyfriend of Deneen. More to come on that little subject later. So they find Chris McMillan But this is now 2018. Yeah, it took them that long to identify this guy's body. And they find Chris McMillan. He has 3 different police interviews. And during one of those interviews, I don't know which one, but during one of those interviews in 2018, he admits and he confesses the entire thing. Here's what happened. And fast forward to today or yesterday, he gets on the stand in his prison garb because he was charged with the murder of Robert Carvalho, aka Juan Cintrone, and he pled guilty under a plea deal to second-degree murder. Now, the plea deal was in exchange for him offering his testimony against Deneen and Beverly. However, Deneen, now she had a separate trial. The trial goes forward against Deneen. He takes his plea. He gets 8 years. 8 years. So he's going to be out in no time. Deneen gets convicted because of his testimony. And I don't know what she was sentenced to. But in any case, now you think, okay, Beverly's turn. That's why we're here now. Not so fast. This is 2024. What happened with Beverly? Well, Beverly had fled the country. Beverly was living in Italy. So they had to go through the process of getting her extradited from Italy back to the United States to stand trial for the murder of this man she lived with and the father of her 2 children. So what the federal government was able to arrange with the Italian government was that Italy would agree to extradite her back under the condition that she was not to be tried for first-degree murder, like no death penalty. Are we the only country that does death penalty anymore? One of the few, I would think. Yeah. And I watched a hearing that occurred back in October of last year, and this prosecutor was very, very frustrated that he can't get her for first-degree murder, that he can only try her for second-degree murder. He wanted first-degree murder to be one of the charges, and he says, let the jury convict her of first-degree murder, but you can only, you'll just sentence her to second-degree murder. Now, there has been no mention of first-degree murder, no mention of why she is only charged with second-degree murder. And I got to believe that the jury is wondering, what the heck is going on? Because it's clear from the testimony of Chris McMillan, and we're going to hear some of that soon, that this should be first-degree murder. She planned this thing. This was not, spur of the moment, yeah, I knew this was going to kill him, second-degree murder. This was, we planned it. Yes. Yeah. Anyway. So I'm going to show you the star witness. Now, I would cover opening statements, but you're going to hear it all through this witness, Chris McMillan. And he held up really well. Good witness, really good witness. But the first thing you're going to notice about this Chris McMillan is, first of all, Fabio, hello. He's got this long flowing hair. Oh, gorgeous hair. Yeah, good head of hair, this guy. But he's wearing sunglasses. I wear my sunglasses at night. ZZ Top. Yes, that's what he reminded me of, ZZ Top. Anyway, he's got his sunglasses on. And the prosecutor says, why are you wearing sunglasses? And he says, because I have double astigmatism, and if I don't have the sunglasses on, I can't see anything. I just see shadows, which being a former nurse made no sense to me. I have never heard of double astigmatism and having to wear sunglasses. If this is a thing, please let me know because I've never heard of it. Anyway, he's got these beady eye sunglasses on. I've been wearing them since I was little. And sure enough, the prosecution showed a picture of him with Deneen taken back in 2002, where he's got the same daggum sunglasses on. So maybe he's telling the truth. I don't know. And that was, speaking of telling the truth, that was what the defense attorney spent a lot of time on with the jury. Here's what you should question when you're listening to the witnesses in this case, aka Chris McMillan, about evaluating his credibility. And he goes through this laundry list of things you should, be looking out for. So, and then it was explained to the jury, why are you wearing a prison garb? Because I'm serving a sentence for this murder that I'm about to tell you about. So he describes, basically he's homeless. He had come to Michigan to get work. Poor guy falls off the roof of whatever it is what he was doing. He falls off the roof, crushes his ankle, his back. He's just really messed up. So he's got a workers' comp claim pending. And so he can't work. And so he goes into this gas station convenience store one day and he's making a purchase and he sees Deneen. And he notices that Deneen, because she's ahead of him in line, he notices she's got a Southern accent, which he was attracted to. And so he goes out to his truck and he's going to write down his phone number to give her. And as he's doing that, she comes out and she gives him her phone number. And the rest is history. No, not so fast. So they become fast friends, start hanging out. So was this your girlfriend? No, we're just friends. We just hung out. She was dancing at the time and gay. Didn't like men, but she liked Chris. He was her friend. And even on cross-examination, the prosecutor or the defense attorney was saying, well, you slept with her, didn't you? And he's like, the closest I ever got, we came home one night, she stripped naked on the bed and was telling him some story. And he says, that's as close as I ever got. Never slept with her. But at the time that he met her, she was living in her grandmother's condo. But apparently, and they would hang out there and smoke weed in different places. They would smoke weed. When Grandma found out that she was having other women over there, and why she was having other women over there, Grandma threw her out of the condo. So she goes to live with her dad, Juan Centrone, in this house with Beverly, the defendant, and Robert, her dad, and the two young children. So Robert comes over there. Chris comes over there. Chris has nowhere to live, apparently. And so he starts hanging out over there 2-3 times a week. And at one point, he said he often witnessed very loud arguments between Beverly and Robert, or Juan, as he's also known, to the point where, Beverly would have mascara running down her face. And he said he never witnessed any physical abuse by Robert, of Beverly, of the girls. He never witnessed any of that. But Beverly maintained that Robert was sexually abusing the girls. Now, of course, he said, I never witnessed anything, never witnessed any of that. But about a week before the murders, he was smoking some weed with Deneen when Beverly came in and said, Deneen, did you tell him about the plan? And Deneen said, no, I hadn't told him yet. But, we're planning on killing Robert because of the abuse. He's like, oh, okay. Yeah. So then about 3 days before the murder, they actually get into the details of the plan. You know, Beverly's like, I'm going to wait for him to start going down the stairs, to go down into his man cave to read his Bible. And I'm going to push him. When he gets to the bottom of the stairs, Robert, I want you to hit him with a baseball bat. Then Deneen is going to throw a bag over his head and we're going to suffocate him. There you go. There's the plan. Okay. So now I want you to hear from Chris. He's going to tell you exactly what happened. Here you go.
Down comes Robert, and Beverly was behind him. They come down a few steps. Beverly kicked Robert down the stairs. I swung the bat. I hit the post. I broke the bat. He was kind of at his knees. And he wasn't really getting up. He had his hands out like he was going towards Deneen. Deneen was right in front of him. And Beverly starts to tell Deneen, give me the hammer, give me the hammer. Deneen takes the hammer and with her right hand wants to hit him a couple times on the left side of his head. Beverly jerks the hammer away and with her left hand on the left side of the head hits him like 3 or 4 more times until the hammer was in his head. So he was on his knees with the hammer sticking out of his head. I took the hammer, I pulled the hammer out. I'm holding the hammer. There's a hole about $half size. I turn back around and there's a bag on his head. Deneen's behind him. He's laying on his back with a rope. Deneen was holding the bag. Beverly was sitting up on top of him to keep him from moving. And he laid like that until the bag quit moving in and out and he quit breathing.
Judge, may we approach for a moment?
What'd you think? I wasn't wrong about the hair, right? Right? Okay. So I had some questions. I don't know if this jury gets to ask questions, but I have some questions. How does Robert stay on his knees while someone's hitting him over the head with a hammer? Like, wouldn't he just go to the ground, like collapse to the ground? How is he staying on his knees? I don't get that. But I don't know. Maybe he was still conscious. He was still breathing, according to Chris, because when they put the bag over his head, he said you could see the bag going in and out because he was breathing. And then he stopped breathing. So Chris goes on to explain that following the murder, they take off their clothes, they get cleaned up, they put on fresh clothes, they put their clothes in a bucket, and then they head to the dollar store to get cleaning supplies, bleach, because it's pretty bloody. He says very bloody. That's why they left the bag over his head and tied it with the rope because it was full of blood. But he said when they got back from the dollar store, Beverly and Deneen went down to clean it up. He says, I never went back down there. Didn't want to go back down there. Then that afternoon, he says all of this occurred between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. while the 2 young girls, Tasha and Cicely, are at school. So that afternoon, he goes and he picks up Tasha and Cicely from school, brings them back home. Mom says, you're grounded. You go to your rooms. I don't know what they were grounded for, but they were grounded. Then Beverly pulls out this trunk that was at the foot of her bed and starts pulling everything out of the trunk and tells Chris, take this down to the basement, put Robert in this trunk and bring him back up. So Robert does it. So he brings the trunk back up, puts it in the back of Robert's own van, puts it in Robert's van with a gas can. because the plan was they were going to light him on fire. So after it gets dark that night, they all get into the van. And he said it was Bev's idea to burn the body. He said they made one stop at a gas station. Now, Deneen is driving because he doesn't know his way around this town. He doesn't know this town. He makes that clear. I don't know this town. I don't know where we are going. I don't know what gas station we stopped at. They stop at a gas station, put gas in the van, put gas in the gas can. And he said it was probably about a 3-gallon gas can. And they start driving. He says probably 45 minutes. It was a long drive. And it was dark, but they come upon this, he says at one point they turn off onto this 2-lane road. And they're confronted by a gate. They drive for a little while, then they come to this gate. So they stop at the gate. They get out. They take the trunk, drag it up the road to the gate, and then pull it under the gate and then drag it further onto this property, which turns out to be this blueberry field. And the prosecutor had pictures of the gate. He says, is this the gate? Yes, that's the gate. And how they were dragging this trunk around was they used a cushion that was in the van. And they put the trunk on a cushion, and then they drug the cushion. So the cushion he identified the cushion. They had a picture of a burned cushion. The edges were burned, not the part that was underneath the trunk. So after they get it up the road, he and Deneen get it up the road. They go back to the van, and Beverly says, he's got a gold ring on that I want. Go get me that gold ring. So they take the gas can and they go back up the road to get the gold ring. Bev goes with them. Now, Janine is struggling with him and can't get the gold ring. So Beverly somehow gets the gold ring off of the finger of Robert. He says, I don't know how she did it. Maybe she spit on her finger, to get it loose. I don't know how she did it, but she got the gold ring off. Then Beverly pours all of the gasoline, 3 gallons, over the trunk. Christopher, lights it on fire, and they take off running. They run back down the road. Oh, did I mention they had Tasha and Cicely back in the van? They took them sleeping, put them in the van to go with them. I guess, you don't want to leave your kids alone, right? They're trying to do the right thing. And I don't know that they ever woke up during this whole ordeal. So they jump back in the van and they leave. They go back home. On the way back home, Beverly says, let's throw your shoes out the window. So they can't identify us by footprints. Okay. So he goes home. It's late. It's, sun's coming up by the time they get home. And he gets about 3 hours sleep. He goes into the sunroom, gets about 3 hours sleep, comes out, and he and Beverly go to a salvage yard to buy new tires or other tires for the van. They replace the tires that were on the van with these tires that they got at a salvage yard so that the tire tracks of the van couldn't be matched to come back to them. So at that point, Beverly starts telling people that Robert has left her, that Robert left them, and that they're going to move to Jamaica. Deneen starts making plans to move to Texas. Beverly starts making plans to move to Jamaica with Tasha and Cicely. So when she goes to Jamaica, he says, I didn't have anywhere to go, so I went with Beverly. So he goes with Beverly to Jamaica, but he has to come back to Michigan because of his workers' comp case. He has to give testimony. So he ends up back in Michigan, and fast forward to 2018, he gets a knock on the door. Christopher, we'd like to talk to you. It's the police. This is when he tells his whole story. Wow, that was a lot. Yes, my goodness. Let me see if I left anything out. Oh, I did. After the murders, Beverly sends Deneen and Robert back down to the basement to chip up the cement. Wherever there's blood, chip it up. So they get a hammer, a different hammer, and they're chipping up the cement. So finally, they think they have that done. They take some white paint, and wherever there's blood on the pillars or whatever there is in the basement, they cover it with white paint. Then they mix up some fresh cement and pour the concrete down, smooth it out, and they're done. And that concrete slab is still there today. Yeah. Covering the site of where Robert was murdered. Meanwhile, Beverly, she sold the house, she sold the van, and that's where we're going to leave off for today's testimony. Yeah, very interesting. And like I said, he never wavered from this story. I found him to be very credible. I really did. He did not waver one single bit. And the fact that this is a story he, oftentimes you'll hear, oh, he changed his story, this changed, that changed. No, this is the same story he told the cops during his interview before he was even charged with the murder. Yeah. So that lends even more credibility to what he's saying. Wow. Meanwhile, when you see Beverly sitting there, she's got these glasses on her head like she's, on the beach. And she's eyeing him. Just like that. Okay. That's the show for today, guys. Yes, I'm going to keep these trials separate. So, you might want to follow one and not the other. You might want to follow them both, but they'll be color-coded on the thumbnail. And I will see you tomorrow in one of these trials or the other. Take care, everyone. Bye.